Tool Sheath. Yeah, I got their wallet. You know that guy? No, but he makes good stuff though.
I love it. A nicer deal.
Yeah, see, I got it. This is one of his wallets.
This little one?
Yeah.
Get him on the show.
That's a great idea.
So,
Great idea.
yeah, I mean, anybody we connect with. People that want to plug their stuff, like my BLS guy, he wants to plug his book.
Well, yeah.
And then I'm going to get the president of the Houston Economics Club because he wants to plug the club. But that's all good.
So the whole concept behind Saving the Dream is that in this book, this book written in 1931 is where he's the guy who coined actually initially described the concept of the American dream. But it wasn't like prescriptive, like this is what it should be. He was writing it in 1931. If you look at it, it's a historical look back that says what? Oh, it's a look back that says,
keep it down.
Here's what we've created.
Oh.
We now have a place where
how do you maintain it?
Everybody has the opportunity to have a better, richer, fuller life, irrespective of their station, what family they were born into, whether they hold land, like all those things from other
Creed,
societies
color, or religion
and civilization. In previous societies and civilizations, depending on who you were, you didn't necessarily have the same opportunity as other people. Now we have that, and so the point is, now we're 100 years. And this, by the way, this is a 1932 printing. So
I saw that. 31 actually. I think.
Well, no, the book was published in 31, but this is a 32 printing. And now here we are 100 years later. What are we doing?
How do we maintain this?
Do people still think about that concept of the American dream? Should they still think about it? Is it achievable? What should we be doing? What shouldn't we be doing? What works? I can take anybody's story and connect
weave it into
that theme. And that was what I did with Jim. And we ended up talking about what's the purpose of government. And as the purpose of government has shifted in the last 100 years and has moved, largely gotten larger, but have we helped?
Should be infrastructure and defense, and that's it.
Right.
Damn it.
Have we helped or hindered people's ability to achieve the American dream? Because presumably government's helping, but like that's what people think. But are we really? And so we had some good conversation on that.
Microphone guy.
What?
I need help.
With what?
I can't see the Gabby guy's mouth.
Is that better?
There you go.
There we go.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I'm happy now. That way I can see when you're starting to say something.
Oh,
Dad, quit hitting the microphone with your glasses.
Like this?
I'm not wearing my headphones, asshole.
Or like this.
All right. Can we start?
Yeah, we're recording.
Oh, we're recording.
Yeah.
All right.
I have 10 minutes of very incriminating footage.
Hello, this is Dan Allford, and you're listening to the Roboticist Chronicles podcast.
But just a second. We talked about this.
Yeah, and then you go, hang on.
I thought so. We had a whole 5 minutes ago. We had a whole conversation with Johnny and Trevor, and we said, "What are we doing?" This is not what we said. I thought this was my show.
Well, it's our show.
But we don't have a show.
Well, we're about to. We're here to announce the new network.
The new network. Okay, but the network doesn't have shows. The network. So, all right. So I'll make you a deal. We'll do this episode, and it can go on both of our shows. So,
It's the deal.
Yeah.
So this is the Roboticist Chronicles.
It is. It's also a brand new show that I'm launching called Saving the Dream, which hasn't had any episodes yet. So this is going to be the very first one. So since you started, why don't you? Well, you want to talk about the network first, and then we'll talk.
Yeah, let's talk about the network.
and then we'll talk about Roboticist. What's it called?
That's
Roboticist Chronicles.
That's the reason we're here together today. Is we've got this new network going on. It's called
Podcast Network.
Podcast.
It's just a podcast network. It's not a.
We'll squeeze a video in here and there.
Yeah, well, I think they're all going to be video, but they're podcast. This is a podcast network. We're not going like on TV or radio or anything like that, right? Yeah.
Right. So this is the Brain Pub.
Brain Pub Network.
So it's kind of like a double meaning. It's the Brain Pub and
it's the pub. We're
cheers.
and we're drinking Dan's favorite rum today, I believe, right? Yeah, Salud.
Salvadorian.
Yeah, Salvadorian. The name of it is escaping me right now. It's over there on the brain card.
Florida Cognac.
Florida Cognac. Flower of sugar or something like that.
Or the cane.
So sugar flower. So we're starting a podcast network.
There's a whole other meaning to it. It's publishing.
Publishing.
So Brain Publishing.
Brain Publishing Network. Okay, let's back up. Let's talk about how did we get to where we are.
Indeed, two podcasters walked into a bar. No,
we didn't. We walked into the Cannon, which is it's a co-working place. But we used to. So the story is for the. I'm sure we got hundreds of thousands of listeners already.
Minimum.
So we should explain this to them. The story is I also host a podcast so far still for the Oil and Gas Global Network, the Oil and Gas Tech Show, which I've done for a couple of years now. And
There's another Dan.
There's another Dan.
Nagala.
Dan Nagala, who is also the founder of a tech company, UTSI. They do
and a kayaking buddy and a rock climbing buddy.
It is a kayaking buddy and a rock. And so the funny thing is I don't know if I ever told you this, but so Dan is a really interesting guy, and
known him most of my life.
Really, yeah. And I don't know how I didn't hear the story how you guys met, but so at the end of the show where we ended up talking about a whole bunch of things besides oil and gas technology, I said, hey, if you got any friends who are kind of like weird and interesting like you, I'm always looking for good guests. And then he connected me to you. And then so we met. So OGGN a lot of times we used to do some of our recordings at the Cannon, and so we met over there. You make a habit of noting that I was late for that first
so
one.
I was on time.
You were on time, and I was late. And we did a tech show episode.
Talked about robots and.
About robots. So you're the robot guy.
Yeah, and during
so the people on Roboticist Chronicles already know who you are, but the people on the Alter Ego show don't.
And my day job is we design and build robot systems, and they do everything from welding rock bits to offshore riser running, and we're even getting into orthopedic surgery. So we've been doing this.
And orthopedic surgery.
Yeah, all the above. Because, robots are just another labor-saving device, and you can apply them to a whole lot of different tasks. So that's my day job.
Right.
And so we started a podcast.
Dust collection, I believe, is the most common one.
Well,
right?
that's what I always say. The most common use of robots in America is dust collection. People buy them, they don't work. You put them in the corner, and they collect dust.
Yeah.
There's actually only...
We got a robot vacuum doing that right now at our house.
Yeah, indeed. But, it's kind of the Wild West in robotics still out there, and there's only a couple of companies, two to be exact, in Texas that are certified robot integrators. So our job is to not make dust collection robots. And I started this in '83. American dream, right? Started in my garage.
There you go. Yeah.
Kind of keys back into your show, doesn't it now?
It does.
And so started in '83. Now we've got 65 people working in 100,000 square feet, and we're working in 32 countries. And we started this podcast with a fellow up in Dallas named Terry. He started us out podcasting. And I had too much fun with it because I don't know if you figured this out yet, but my hobby is collecting experts.
Yeah, I have figured that out.
So, so what we do on my podcast is it's largely attached to robots, but not always. We push the envelope. And I bring on interesting people and let
there's
them talk.
Dan's Business Secrets, which is like a sub show of the show, right? Yeah.
That's what's been going on lately. That's just something Johnny and I came up with, and trying to let people learn from my mistakes and the things and a few things I did right, since 1983. So that's Dan's Business Secrets. We bring on people that have been useful in my career. So that's been my focus. But then, going on your show kind of made me realize that there's a whole nother world out there.
There's other stuff, yeah. There was something that you just said that made me think of something that now I can't think of anymore. But you started people. There's what?
A little more rum.
I lost it. Yeah. So the interesting thing is about your 100,000 square feet. That's what it was. is so the studio, this fantastic studio, by the way, that's been a product of
That's another story.
it's another story. I mean, we've had some other people help. I mean, you and I have done most of the work, obviously, but but those guys behind the curtain there, they had a hand in it as well. And
we needed
the
a
guys
place
behind the
to
curtain
do
are
this.
making hand gestures right now. So, but this building that we're in is your building, not your main building, but because your 100,000 square feet
We had a little
only
room
has
left
like
over.
60 guys working over there, and but there's like this parking spot thing, right? Like you have to, what is you got to have.
So we wanted to build an addition onto our main building. In order to do that, we needed additional parking. That's kind of hard to do.
But did you actually need the parking, or was it like it's a
This is,
requirement? Right?
Welcome to the city of Houston. It's considered to be a business-friendly area, but not always. And so, in order to build the addition, we had to have room for the addition, room for a retention pond, and room for more parking. I tried to point out to the city that in reality, robots don't drive cars, and so the parking was really superfluous. But they didn't listen. So, in order to get additional parking space, we bought the building next door. It had this office in it.
Yep.
And now it's the Hat Studio.
Hat Studio, which, by the way, the robot is holding the hat. I love to do this. Sometimes he doesn't work for me, though. I don't really know why. Like right now, he's really not. Is the battery? Oh, there you go.
Oh, yeah, drop the hat.
Okay. So Hat Studio, which stands for, you came up with this name.
Houston Advanced Technology Studio. So,
and you can see the advanced technology is working right here.
we got a KUKA robot holding the hat for.
Is it on the thing? I don't.
Keep going. There you go.
Right.
Okay.
How's that for advanced
And so our goal was to come up with a studio, not just for our own use, but for your podcast. And so that's the point of Brain Pub.
Right.
There's going to be more podcasters.
There will be more. Brain Pub. I think the thing that stood out to me as we were talking about this idea is what's kind of missing from, because there's no lack of podcasts or
Indeed.
other things that you might listen to people, talking about. But the thing that stood out is we ought to be able to have a place where we can talk about things that we don't always, like we can sit with people, you can have a drink, you can talk about something that we're not necessarily always going to agree.
I hope not.
But we can still be friends, right? And you had this comment about the, what was it? Echo chambers are warm and friendly, but they're not good, or something like that.
Echo chambers and silos. That's
Silos.
the term, right? And they're warm and comfortable, but they're not any good because you don't learn anything if you're just talking to people with similar opinions. So we had one of the business commentary writers on the Roboticist Chronicles recently, and Chris Tomlinson. He's very opinionated, and so
He is.
And he and I don't agree on everything, but that doesn't mean we can't respect each other's views and we don't benefit from each other's views. And so that's my goal in Roboticist Chronicles. We're going to bring people on that I don't agree with, but they have an interesting story.
Yeah. And I want to do the same thing for Saving the Dream. And any other, and I want to talk about what that show is about here in a second. But any other shows that we bring on, that's kind of the idea, right? Is just like at the neighborhood pub where people get together, and I don't know, we're maybe even missing this a little bit in our modern American culture, but I think it's still there in other places. The idea of you get together at the pub. Certainly, there are plenty of arguments at the pub, right? There's certainly plenty of arguments. There's no lack of passion and headbutting or whatever. But everybody's still neighbors and everybody's still friends. And yeah, maybe occasionally somebody doesn't talk to each other for a couple of days, but they get over it. And you also, what you have at the pub is it's so the people that show up there are just the people that come from any walk of life, right? They might have kind of, what is it you always say? We got robot. No, what is it? We got astronauts and kayakers and
we're going to have a senator come on. We're going to have a speedlunker come on, racers come on. All these people have good stories, and you just have to tease the story, and you'll benefit from it.
Yeah, that's my point. So you go to the neighborhood pub. Everybody doesn't have the same job. Everybody doesn't work in the same industry. Everybody's not cut from the same cloth. There are people from all different walks of life, people who do different things, and they come together and they talk about stuff. So that's the
right. It's too often that you're either CNN or Fox. What we're going to do is have the CNN and Fox guys sit there and talk together, and we're all going to learn something. Because the reality is, I've never had a novel opinion in my life.
No?
Nope. And I don't think you have either. I don't think anyone has. You're
Probably not.
No, you get your opinions, you get your information from others.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the point of these podcasts. Sharing a little information. What it might do is it might change your mind, or it might reinforce your opinion, and both are good.
Yeah, no, there's not. Right, I agree. So I was just noticing that the guys forgot to set the timer for us, so we don't really know how long we're talking for. I do, which is probably fine too. Can I talk about the new show?
Oh, no, you need to, because the Roboticist Chronicle's been going on for several years. It's fairly established. But this, the whole Brain Pub idea is going to allow me to expand a bit.
Yes. So now Roboticist Chronicles will be part of the Brain Pub network.
Indeed.
And we'll get, and the other nice thing we'll be able to do is we'll be able to cross-pollinate a little bit the shows, right? Have some people on, both shows, or people, I don't know. I think there's going to be a lot of good kind of things that we could do by having these common shows on one network. That's because a lot of podcast networks are just kind of and there's not anything against any of the, because everybody's out there doing great things in the podcast world, but some of them are really kind of just a catalog of just different shows that happen to kind of fly under this brand, right? But I think what we want is to have all the shows on the network kind of have the personality of the network. They have kind of this common purpose, and you know what I'm saying?
Interesting information and actionable intelligence.
Yeah. Interesting information. That's a tall order. The actionable intelligence part. Okay, so this is a book.
Okay.
This book,
this ancient book you brought in
for the fans at home. It is, nowadays this does probably seem like a really old book.
1931. I was looking on the fly cover.
So the book is called The Epic of America. It's written by James Truslow Adams, or it might be Truslow Adams. I don't know. He's not any relation to the presidential Adamses. James Truslow Adams wrote the book The Epic of America in 1931. This is where we get the concept, the term, the American dream. He's the first person who said that, who characterized it. He wanted to call the book The American Dream, but in 1931, the publishers thought that in the middle of the Depression, a book called The American Dream might not sell very well. So
little did they know.
So they called it The Epic of America, and the reason why it's called The Epic of America because if I told you that this book is the first guy who talked about the American dream almost 100 years ago, you might think that it's kind of prescriptive. Like this guy in 1931 said, this is what the American dream should be, or how we ought to achieve it, or something like that. But in fact, it's the opposite. And the whole where he talks about specifically about the American dream, it doesn't happen until the epilogue at the end, because the rest of it is all a historical look back, basically going all the way back to even before, history before the founding of this country, and he gets all the way up to this point in 1931, which is just 150 years into the whole thing, right? Where he says, what we've created here, what we have now is, so he speaks about the American dream as being what we've created now. We have this place that's different from other societies and other civilizations that have come before. And so I'm going to read a short passage. Now, this is my favorite part. And now this is not a first printing; it's a 1932 edition. So the page numbering is the original format. It's the original, right? And the part where he talks about the American dream is on page 404. And 404, as you know, on the internet means it's not here. So, so you get. Are you with me on this?
Not back then. Okay.
Yeah, but the irony, it's on page 404. And so one of the questions that we're asking is the American dream still alive? Do people still think that way? Should they still think that way? What should we be doing? Is it achievable? But according to the book, it's on page 404. Nonetheless, the American dream, that dream of a land in which life should be better and richer and fuller for everyone, with opportunity for each according to his ability or achievements. And then he goes on a little bit more to say, it is not a dream of motor cars and high wages merely, but a dream of a social order in which each man and each woman shall be able to attain to the fullest stature of which they are innately capable, and be recognized by others for what they are, regardless of the fortuitous circumstances of birth or position. And then he goes on to say, this is what we've created, even though we've done it imperfectly, and it's not exactly right all the time, but this is kind of where we're at. So, and of course, at the time, his, what was in his mind was a lot of older European cultures and other things in other parts of the world where people, based on what family you were born into or what lands you owned or whatever, that was kind of where your station in life. And he's saying that in fact, there's another little bit here where he asked, he said, I once had an intelligent young Frenchman as guest in New York. And after a few days, I asked him what struck him most about his new impressions. What's the most interesting thing about being here in America? And he said, and without hesitation, he replied, the way that everyone of every sort looks you right in the eye without a thought of inequality. So, and then later he talks about a guy that actually worked for him who was from another country. And he said, it's so weird how we sit and talk to each other. If we were back in my home country, I could only talk to you as my employer. We couldn't just sit and have a conversation. So my whole point is, that was, in 1931, James Truslow Adams said, this is what we've achieved. And now we're 100 years into it. How's it going?
And how do we maintain it?
Do we still have it? Do we maintain it? Do people even think this way anymore?
I'd like to hope so.
Should they think this way? I mean, what do you think?
Well, I mean, I'm the poster child for the American dream, garage to success kind of situation. And so it can be done. I just came back. I was in
as Jim, your friend, pointed out, you're not even that smart.
No, well, that's a good point. It just shows that anybody can make it in America. And it really does boil down to hard work. I'll tell you my SAT scores, but they're embarrassing. So, we'll just go right on. But I just came back from South America. I was working down in Colombia. Uh-huh. And on the way back, I was counting it up. I've been to 30 countries. And out of that, we work in 32. So I haven't been to all of them that we're even working in. And so I'm a firm believer in the American dream. I started out with a $500 welding machine in my garage. And now we're working in 32 countries and got 65 people doing great things. But what you're describing in there still exists. And so to our listeners that are listening in America, they're not going to understand what you're talking about. But I do, because I travel all over the world. And we truly have a flatter system over here. Mm. When I describe my business to people in Russia, in the UK, all over the place, I said, you could never do that in our country.
Mm. What specifically about it could you never do?
Because there's bureaucracy. The beauty of
hold on, because we have bureaucracy. We got bureaucracy,
but not in all things. Now if I were a hairdresser, I would have to have a license.
Yeah,
but I started a company.
I can hear the guys laughing about if you were a hairdresser. But we got to get a camera in the booth over there so that we can cut to that every once in a while.
But ironically, in heavy industry, I was able to start building machines. I mean, the first machine I built was for the government for the plutonium plant. And
I saw that on Back to the Future.
Well, no, that's a different one, but that's 10 jillion gigawatts. But they didn't ask for any license or anything. They just said, "Can you do this this hot tap at the plutonium plant? And I said, yes, sir. And $250,000 tax dollars later, we did it. But that's what makes America great, is I was able to start a company in my garage and do plutonium, and now we're doing robots in 32 countries.
So I'm gonna
No place else you can do that.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate just for a second. That was you said you started the company back in that was back in olden times.
83.
So back even before.
Are you saying we can't do that now?
Even before 1.21 gigawatts. But there's a whole bunch of people I think there are people who would say, oh yeah, that's fine for you. 30-something years ago, you were in the right place at the right time and everything went just right. Try doing that in today's world, fella, and see what happens, because we got this inequality and this thing, and you can't do that, right?
Indeed. I had an odd combination of skills. I understood industrial technology, and I was a computer geek. So I was at the right place at the right time with the right skills. So I'm talking to the aspiring entrepreneur out there in our audience. Find out what that right place is today. No, you can't go and beat the big guys. You have to find a place to fit, and then the system will still
It takes some
work.
trying. So when you were in the right place at the right time, that wasn't the first place you were ever in. You were probably in some wrong places at the wrong time prior to that.
No,
right?
we're Johnny and I we're gonna do a series on that. It's talking about career paths.
Yeah.
It can either be convoluted or it can be linear.
Yeah.
Okay, and a lot of my friends
I think I'm the first one. Just
convoluted.
yeah.
Well,
I think
I'm
so.
linear, and I think it's just luck. But
Yeah.
I've been doing this since I was 12 years old. I've been building stuff,
Yeah.
and then later on in my 20s, I found out people would pay me to do this.
Yeah, right.
So it's been
Like the fun stuff you could actually
but
get paid for.
I've been building things since I was 12, and so I've been doing the
What
same
made
thing.
you want to build things when you were 12?
I wanted things. Okay, I wanted a safety clean. I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's a parts washing machine, and I was racing motorcycles when I was a kid, and I wanted a parts washer. Well,
Oh, right.
okay, and it's not a big deal, but it's you build on success, and so I built a parts washer, and so that way I could clean my motorcycle parts, and I
clean
could
your
go to the next race, and I could win.
Yeah.
Okay,
So you had a purpose,
I had a purpose,
special purpose.
But there's no way as a kid growing up with a paper route making literally $1 a day.
Yeah.
Okay, $1 was more back then, but I was making $1 a day throwing papers. You weren't going to buy a parts washer, but if you wanted one, you could build it. And I did, and it worked, and then we went from there. And then we built rocket engines, we built steam engines, and I've just never quit.
Yeah.
So that's the linear approach to life. That's not necessarily the right one. But it worked.
But whether it's linear or otherwise, there's some. If you abstract that, what you just said is you wanted stuff, and so you figured out a way to get the stuff that you wanted.
Cheap.
Yeah, cheap.
That means you got to build it yourself.
Yeah, well, it required doing work, and it required some ingenuity and some dedication, right? I mean, like all those old-fashioned values.
What else was I going to do?
Yeah, well, you didn't have iPhone or iPad, or you didn't have
No Game Boy.
No Game Boy.
I go way back, and so to me it was a hobby, and I literally, I can tell you that even all through high school, I thought engineers drove trains.
Yeah, well, they do.
They do.
Yeah.
But, and I was literally surprised to find out that people would pay me to build things.
Right. Or
was
to figure out
delighted.
or even just to figure out how to build it.
Oh, yeah,
You
that
could get
too.
paid just to design it. Yeah.
But I'm gonna tell you right here and now, the American dream is alive and well, but it's not infinite. You have to figure out a place that you fit in. You need to do something that others don't want to do. That's the other thing I do. I do dirty stuff. Not many people want to deal with plutonium, do they?
This is a family show. We can't really.
Yeah,
get
well, I
into that.
understand. But that's what you look for. Is you look for something that you have skills in and that other people don't want to do.
Yeah. So, what? Do people still do that? People do still do. We see people doing that.
Oh yeah, no, there's and people say, oh, there's no room. You're being cynical today. You can be the devil's advocate all you like, but I'm going to tell you right now that when small entrepreneurs are bought up by larger companies,
Yeah.
That doesn't destroy entrepreneurism. No, it creates opportunity.
Yeah.
Because the big guys don't provide the same personal service, and so guess what? Then
They don't really innovate the same way.
No, it's interesting. We're doing that offshore robotics. I think we talked about that on a prior show, and the people we're working with, Transocean, they said it would have taken them much longer, just because we cut through the red tape, and we build it,
and you could just do it right.
Okay.
Yeah,
so that is why the little guy still has a chance in America, and the American dream is alive and well.
I'm glad to hear it. And obviously I think it is as well. I think I don't know if people today, how many people think that way. What am I trying to say? So
that's good.
Cuts
back on competition, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. I think today, when people wake up at the beginning of each day and they think about what do I need to accomplish today, I'm not so sure that that frame of mind is as prevalent maybe as it used to be.
Well,
or maybe
was.
I'm romanticizing or idealizing the past, right? But it seems like we're a little disconnected from that.
Well, that's what
philosophy.
you and I are going to do. We're gonna reawaken this,
right.
Awaken this.
Right, because we think and I guess the reason I'm saying this is because we wake up and we're already, before the coffee's even in the cup, we're already, maybe not you, but a lot of people, you're already inundated with a whole bunch of stuff that from a whole bunch of other places and news about things that doesn't really like between the news cycle and the social media, and there's all this stuff on our minds that really is kind of a distraction from that core thinking of purpose and deliberate action.
Well, I'll tell you.
We spend a lot of time having a lot of opinions about a lot of stuff that doesn't probably really matter.
Okay, and so that's a skill you can develop. I race cars, and what I do is I put earplugs in when I race cars. I try to eliminate the distractions. I need to focus on the visual input and not be distracted by other things. So I run a 6-point harness so I don't move around in the car. I run earplugs so I don't hear any noise, and allows you to focus. So that's what you have to do. You have to eliminate all the noise and find the signal.
I see what you did there. A little electrical engineering.
Yeah. Sorry. And that's what these podcasts are going to do.
Right. That's the idea.
And I'm going to bring on a bunch of other entrepreneurs. That's going to be my gig. I don't know what you're up to, but I suspect it'll be similar.
Yeah. No, I'm going to have I have an assortment of people actually plan to come on. Some of them have already agreed, and some of them I'm still trying to figure out how to bribe them to come on. But what I want to do is have people from, as they say, all walks of life, right? But people from different places, different, like your friend Jim the G-Man.
Oh, Jim the G-Man, yeah.
Who's going to be on soon, and or Nagala, or I tried with your friend over there from the Chronicle, and he turned me down.
Yeah, but you got the G-Man, and he's had a fascinating career in computer forensics.
Really, really cool. So, and I'm also gonna have. So I'm gonna have Carl. Carl is the I gotta find out Carl's last name. I don't know, but Carl's the bar manager at the Petroleum Club in Houston, and Carl has a lot of opinions.
He knows people.
A lot of opinions about things. So I'm gonna have Carl come out on, and I'm not sure exactly what we're gonna talk about, but he's a fascinating person to talk to. So the idea is there's this notion of the American dream, again, not this emotional sort of illustrious thing, but this place where everybody's got the opportunity to not necessarily to make it and be successful and have a robot factory and a ranch with exotic game out in hill country, but everybody has the opportunity. What his words here are: better, richer, fuller life. Now, think
How
of the
about
word
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Well,
Isn't
that's
that
the
all you
idea.
really
It kind
need?
of connects back to that 100. And when he says better, richer, fuller, he doesn't mean necessarily richer like more money. He means in the sense of like richness of life, like your dessert is rich, right? But everybody's story, everybody's perspective, everybody's views and opinions, I want to see how that connects with this idea, and then see how do we sustain it? What should we do differently? What are we doing? What should we be doing? And I don't know. We'll just see where it goes from there.